You're listening to Desire and Power with your host, Mira Salem.
Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. Welcome back to Desire and Power. If you're new here, hi, I'm Mira, and this is the podcast where I talk about erotic psychology, power dynamics, intimacy, shadow work, and all the messy places where desire actually lives. So today's episode is going to be a little different, not because it's shocking, not because it's extreme, but because it touches something that people usually misunderstand so badly that they never even get close to the truth of it. Today, I want to talk about submission, power, and meaning. And to be clear, everything discussed here assumes consent, self-awareness, and choice. So if those things are not present for you in your life right now, this might not be the episode to listen to today. And before anybody freaks out, no, this episode is not about fetishizing anything. It's not about telling you what you should want or what's normal or what's healthy, okay? It's just about understanding why some expressions of desire feel empty and compulsive and why others feel grounding, meaningful, and even stabilizing, okay? Now, there's something that I've noticed over and over again, both in my own life and in the people that I talk to. And that is desire without meaning feels hollow, and power without integrity feels wrong. And when those two things get confused, people end up shaming themselves, pathologizing their desires, or chasing intensity that never actually satisfies them. So, a little while ago, I did an interview with a man who identifies as a submissive. And I want to be very clear about why I'm sharing this interview with you guys today. And it's not because it's kinky. I'm literally just sharing it because it's one of the clearest psychological descriptions I've ever heard of the difference between acting out desire and devoting desire. He basically talks about what it feels like when submission is just used to feed the kink versus what it feels like when submission is offered to someone he experiences as genuinely worthy of it. And the difference, like the way that he describes it, is truly profound. Now, before I play the clip from this interview, I want to give you a lens to actually listen through. As you listen, don't focus on the labels. Don't get stuck on the word superior. Listen to how often he talks about how he feels after it's over, after he goes home, after his body settles, because that's where the truth always shows up. Okay, I'm going to play the clip now, and then I'll come back, and we're going to unpack what's actually happening there, psychologically and energetically. So you said that superiority has an aura, that some people just have an aura that make you want to submit to them. Can you describe what you mean by that? Like, how does this show up for you? How do you see that aura?
For me, it's like very simple. Like there are like some ladies they can be like beautiful or attractive, but that's it. That's it. Like nothing extra. And then there are some women just when you see her, like before she talks, before she does anything, she has like an energy that you can feel, and you say, "Oh fuck, oh God, I want to submit to that person." Like it will have such a meaning to be that person's slave or submit to her.
But what is it exactly? Like, how do you know? How do you just instinctually know? Is there any characteristics? Is there any signs? Like, is there any, for example, is it beauty? Is it intelligence? Is it anything like that? Or is it just simply that some people stir that in you and some people don't?
It starts with the eyes, I would say. The way they look at the world, like you can tell like they are different. It starts from that. Then of course it will be like more developed when you start talking to the person. It's either you confirm how superior she is or not. But yeah, it's like the way they walk. It's hard to explain, but it's like they were put in a place like straight from God.
Okay. That was a good description. And I have to ask, how when did you know that you had this in you, that there was something in you that made you want to submit to what you would call superior women?
I knew it long time ago, to be honest, because for me, like as you know, it's like a kink is like a need. But if I submit to someone and then after it's done, when I go home, I have regrets. It even happened to me when I cried and then I say, what the fuck did I put myself in that low of a situation in front of someone that doesn't deserve it? And then when you do it for someone that you realize she is really the one, she is really superior, like even if you put yourself in any spot, any situation, when you leave, when you go home, when you're driving, you are smiling. It means like you just did something extraordinary. Like it's like you were serving someone that deserved to be served. Like it's like that serving had a meaning, and that meaning like you can do it with someone regular, but you don't have that meaning. You just feel like a junkie, someone that wanted to use heroin. He will inject himself the heroin, but then he will feel happy for that moment because it's a need, like his body needs it, or he will have like bad symptoms. But as soon as it's over, like he will say, oh fuck, I'm a junkie. And he hates himself. Serving for me is like that. If you serve someone that doesn't deserve it, that is not a real goddess or a real superior woman, like you do it, you enjoy the right moment because it's a need, but after that you just say, what fucking loser I was, or I am. But when it's with someone superior, no, you just want more, 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 more. It's become like an addiction, and it has like a different meaning at all. Like you will say, I will do fucking anything for that person with no regrets.
Wow, that was deep. Thank you so much for sharing. There's parts of that vibed with me too. Yeah, that when you find somebody who is worthy of serving, it feels like it actually has meaning, and that's what makes all the difference. Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now let's pause for a second because I know for some people listening that might have stirred up a lot of reactions, right? Maybe curiosity, maybe discomfort, maybe resonance, or maybe for some of you, even judgment. And that's fine. But let's slow this down and talk about what he actually said, not what it sounds like on the surface. Okay. What struck me the most was not actually the kink itself. It was the way that he described the emotional aftermath. When submission was offered to someone that he did not experience as worthy, he described regret, right? He described shame, even crying afterwards, a feeling of being a junkie, right? His words, not mine. Like he had fed a need, but at the cost of his dignity. And when the submission was offered to someone that he experienced as genuinely superior, and don't worry, I'm going to come back and talk about that word in a second, he describes peace, fulfillment, smiling on the drive home, a sense that what he did actually had meaning. And that distinction really matters because it's not about the kink. It's about what the nervous system experiences as coherent versus fragmenting. Now, when he says the word superior, for me personally, I don't hear arrogance here. I don't hear domination for the sake of ego. What I do hear is self-possession. He's describing a woman who is grounded, integrated, not seeking validation, not performing power, not collapsing into neediness or chaos when desire is offered. Someone whose presence like actually carries weight, right? And the body responds to that. And this is important because a lot of people misunderstand power dynamics entirely. They think that submission means weakness or low self-worth or being controlled. But psychologically, what's often happening is quite the opposite. Submission, when it's chosen consciously, is about placing devotion where it feels deserved. And when devotion is placed somewhere that isn't coherent, the body knows that. It feels wrong. It feels empty. It feels like self-betrayal. That's why he used the addiction analogy. Not because kink is addiction, but because desire without meaning behaves like compulsion. So I want to just talk about the psychology of submission itself, because I think this is where people tend to get it very, very wrong. Submission in a healthy psychological sense is not about weakness. I really want to clarify that, okay? It's not about self-esteem. It's not about wanting to be erased or anything. What submission actually is, at its core, is selective surrender. It's the nervous system saying, this feels safe enough, this feels coherent enough, grounded enough that I can actually let go here. And that's a big deal. For people who are highly self-aware, intelligent, internally complex, letting go is not easy, right? These are people who are used to holding themselves together, monitoring themselves, thinking, managing, containing, taking care of other people all day long. And then submission becomes appealing, not because they want to disappear, but because they just want relief from constant self-direction. But here's the key part. The body will not surrender to just anyone. And that's exactly what he's describing in the interview. That's what I want to point out here. That when submission is offered to someone who doesn't actually hold psychological or energetic authority, someone who's chaotic, performative, insecure, or disconnected, the body goes along for the moment, but afterwards, it collapses into regret, shame, a sense of, why did I give myself there? Because submission without structure feels like self-abandonment. But when submission is offered to someone who is grounded, self-possessed, emotionally regulated, and not actually seeking power, something very different happens. The surrender feels clean, it feels meaningful, it feels like alignment instead of loss. That's why he kept using language about worthiness. Not moral worthiness, not superiority in like a social hierarchy, but nervous system worthiness. The sense that the person receiving the submission can actually hold it without exploiting it or collapsing under it. That's why he talked about eyes, presence, right? He talked about the energy before the words, because submission is not negotiated intellectually at first. It's felt somatically. The body scans for steadiness, for non-neediness, for containment. And then when it finds that, surrender becomes not just possible, but deeply, deeply regulating. That's why he described it as, spiritual, not in a religious sense, but in the sense that surrender, when it's chosen and safe, can produce a feeling of order, of purpose, of being oriented towards something larger than the self. And psychologically speaking, submission can function as a way for the psyche to organize itself around something stable. It's a way of saying, I don't need to carry everything alone right now. And that's not pathological. That is human. Where it becomes damaging is when submission is disconnected from discernment, when it's driven by compulsion instead of choice, when it's used to numb instead of align. That's when it starts to feel addictive instead of devotional. So that's why this interview is not really just, it's not a kink story. It's a case study in how desire behaves when it's given meaning versus when it isn't. So I'm going to end here. Submission offered without meaning fragments the self, but submission offered with meaning integrates it. And that distinction literally changes everything. I want to thank you guys so much for listening today. For more deep dives into erotic psychology, relationship advice, and shadow work, consider subscribing to my Substack and follow me on all my other socials that are linked in the show notes.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit that follow button to know when the next episode releases.